My brother Roderick called 911 screaming that I'd abandoned my 5-year-old son at his house. Within an hour, there was an Amber Alert with my face plastered across every phone in the state. Police cruisers surrounded my workplace. My coworkers stared at me like I was a monster. But while police were hunting for me, treating me like some deadbeat mother who dumped her kid and run, my 8-year-old nephew Colby whispered 7 words that changed everything. Dad, why is Mason in the shed? My name is Francine Porter. I'm 32 years old, a single mother, and I work as a dental hygienist at a family practice downtown. Every morning for the past 2 years, I followed the same routine. Wake up at 6, get Mason ready, drop him at my brother's house by 7:30, and make it to work by 8:15. It's not glamorous, but it works. Or at least it did until that Tuesday when my own brother decided to teach me a lesson about parenting. Mason is my whole world. He's 5 years old, obsessed with dinosaurs, and has these huge brown eyes that see everything. He's quiet around strangers, but comes alive when he's talking about T-Rexes and velociraptors. His father left when Mason was 2, said he wasn't ready for the responsibility. Fine by me. Mason and I figured it out together. We're a team. My brother Roderick is 6 years older than me. Growing up, he was the golden child. Football star, married his high school sweetheart Darlene, started his own landscaping business. The American dream, right? He has one son, Colby, who just turned 8. Colby's a sweet kid, loves soccer and video games, looks up to his dad like he hung the moon. At least he used to. Darlene works as a real estate agent, one of those polished women who always looks like she stepped out of a magazine even at 7 in the morning. She's actually nice once you get past the perfect exterior. She'd watch Mason along with Colby while working from home, scheduling showings around the boys' routines. It seemed like the perfect arrangement. Family helping family. But something had been shifting lately. Little comments from Roderick about how I was raising Mason. Boys need to toughen up, Francine. You can't baby him forever. Or maybe if he spent less time with those dinosaur books and more time outside, he'd be more normal. Each comment was a tiny paper cut, individually harmless but collectively starting to sting. That Tuesday morning, Mason had been clingy. He'd wrapped his arms around my leg when we got to Roderick's front door, his dinosaur backpack dragging on the porch. "Mommy, can I come to work with you?" he'd asked. "You know you can't, sweetie, but you'll have fun with Colby today. Aunt Darlene said she'd make those pizza rolls you like for lunch." "Uncle Rod doesn't like when I talk about dinosaurs," Mason had said quietly, and something in his voice made my chest tight. "Did Uncle Rod say something mean to you?" Mason shrugged, that little kid shrug. "That means yes, but I don't want to get anyone in trouble." I'd knelt down, meeting his eyes. "You listen to me, Mason James Porter. You are perfect exactly as you are. If you want to talk about dinosaurs all day long, you do that. Don't let anyone make you feel bad about what you love, okay?" He'd nodded, given me a small smile. "Okay, Mommy." Darlene had opened the door then, cell phone pressed to her ear, gesturing apologetically. "Real estate emergency," her expression said. She'd waved us in and disappeared into her home office. Roderick had been in the kitchen, staring at his laptop, a cup of coffee steaming beside him. "Morning, Rod," I'd said, helping Mason out of his jacket. "Yeah, morning," he'd muttered without looking up. "Darlene's got 3 showings today. I'm working from home." "Thanks for watching him. I know it's a lot." He'd finally looked up then, and something in his eyes had seemed off. Too bright, maybe. Too intense. "Family helps family, right? That's what you always say." "Right," I'd agreed, though something about the way he'd said it made me uncomfortable. I'd kissed Mason goodbye, told him I'd see him at 4 like always, and headed to work. Just another Tuesday. Except it wasn't. Because while I was cleaning teeth and making small talk with patients, my brother was orchestrating something that would flip my entire world upside down. All because he thought I needed to learn a lesson about taking advantage of family, about raising my son wrong, about being the kind of mother he didn't think I should be. Life as a single mom meant creating our own version of normal. Mason and I had lived in the same 2-bedroom apartment for 3 years, the walls covered with his dinosaur posters and my attempts at making it feel like home. Every morning started the same way. Mason would pad into my room at 6:15, carrying his stuffed triceratops, and whisper, "Mommy, is it a work day or a home day?" Work days meant Uncle Roderick's house. Home days meant pancakes and cartoons and trips to the library. That Tuesday had been a work day. I'd made Mason his favorite breakfast, scrambled eggs with cheese smiley faces, while he sat at our small kitchen table organizing his plastic dinosaurs by period. The Jurassic period had the most long-necked ones, he'd informed me seriously, moving his Brachiosaurus next to his Diplodocus. "Is that so?" I'd asked, pouring orange juice into his favorite cup, the one with the T-Rex on it. "Miss Patricia at the library said so. She saved me a new book about the Triassic period. Can we go get it Saturday?" "Of course we can, buddy." This was our life. Simple, structured, safe. Mason thrived on routine, and I'd built our whole world around making sure he had that stability. My job at Dr. Brennan's dental practice paid decent money, enough to cover rent and Mason's needs, with a little left over for his books and museum trips. The health insurance was good, and the hours worked perfectly, with Roderick and Darlene's babysitting arrangement, or so I'd thought. Looking back, the signs had been there for weeks. Roderick had started making comments during pickup times. "You know, Francine, most kids Mason's age are in proper daycare, with structured activities, other kids to socialize with." "He socializes with Colby," I'd pointed out. "Colby's 3 years older. Mason needs kids his own age, kids who can teach him how to be, normal." That word, normal. Roderick had been using it a lot lately. 2 weeks before that Tuesday, there'd been an incident. I'd arrived to pick up Mason and found him crying in the backyard. Roderick was standing over him, holding a football. "What happened?" I'd asked, running to Mason. "Kid needs to learn to catch a ball, Francine. Can't go through life afraid of everything." "He's 5. Colby could catch when he was 4. I'd scooped Mason up, feeling him tremble against me. "Not everyone has to be athletic, Rod." "This is what I'm talking about," he'd said, shaking his head. "You coddle him. No father figure, no discipline, no push to be better. You're setting him up for failure." I'd left without another word that day, but the comment had burrowed under my skin. Was I doing something wrong? Mason was happy, healthy, smart. He knew every dinosaur name I'd never heard of, could tell you what they ate and when they lived. His preschool teacher had called him gifted, but Roderick made it sound like something was broken that needed fixing. Darlene had always been the buffer between us. She'd pull me aside sometimes, say things like, "Don't mind Rod, he's just stressed with work. You're doing great with Mason." But even she'd started suggesting things. "There's a great little league team Colby's on. Maybe Mason would enjoy it?" Or, "I found this STEM camp that might be perfect for Mason. They do robotics instead of dinosaurs, but he might like the change." The change. Like dinosaurs were something he needed to grow out of. That Tuesday morning, as I'd driven to work after dropping Mason off, I'd actually considered looking into daycare programs. Maybe Roderick had a point. Maybe I was holding Mason back by keeping him in this family bubble. The guilt of single motherhood was constant, this nagging voice saying, "You're not enough. You're doing it wrong. He needs more than you can give." Dr. Brennan's office was my escape from those thoughts. There, I was good at my job. Patients requested me specifically. I knew what I was doing. My coworker Gina always said I had the gentlest hands in the practice, that I could clean teeth so carefully that kids fell asleep in the chair. "You're like the tooth fairy's favorite assistant," she'd joke. That morning, I'd had back-to-back patients starting at 8:30. Mrs. Chen and her whole family, all routine cleanings. I'd been in the middle of explaining proper flossing technique to her teenage son when everything started to unravel. When my phone, supposedly on silent in my locker, somehow started ringing loud enough that everyone in the office could hear it. At 11:47 a.m., my phone exploded with notifications. The sound pierced through the usual hum of the dental office, even though it was supposedly in my locker on silent. Our receptionist, Gina, burst into the treatment room where I was finishing up with Mrs. Chen's teenager. "Francine, you need to call your brother. Now. He's called the office 4 times. My hands went cold inside my latex gloves. "Is Mason okay?" "I don't know. He just keeps demanding to speak to you. He sounds really upset." I ripped off my gloves and mask, apologizing to my patient as I rushed to the break room. My phone showed 7 missed calls, 3 from Roderick, 2 from Darlene, 2 from unknown numbers. My fingers shook as I dialed Roderick back. He answered before the first ring finished, and his voice hit me like a physical blow. "Where the hell are you?" "I'm at work, Rod." "What's wrong? Is Mason hurt?" "Don't you dare act confused. You left him here. You just dumped your kid and disappeared. What kind of mother does that?" My mind went blank. "What are you talking about? I dropped him off this morning like always." "You were supposed to pick him up at 9. It's almost noon." 3 hours, Francine. Your son has been asking for you for 3 hours. 9? Roderick, I never pick him up at 9. It's always 4 o'clock. You know this. Stop lying. I have it right here in my calendar. You texted me yesterday saying you needed him picked up at 9 for a dentist appointment. I rearranged my entire work schedule. I never texted you anything like that. Check your phone. I did check, and you know what? I'm done covering for you. I called the police. They need to know what kind of neglect is happening here. The room spun. You called the police? Damn right I did. Child abandonment is a crime, Francine. Maybe this will finally wake you up to what a disaster you are as a mother. He hung up. Immediately, my phone rang again. Unknown number. Ms. Francine Porter? The voice was professional, clipped. This is Officer Wilmot with the police department. We need you to come to the station immediately regarding your son Mason. Is my son okay? Please just tell me if he's okay. Your son is safe, ma'am. He's at your brother's residence. But we need to discuss the situation. Your brother has made some serious allegations about child abandonment. I didn't abandon anyone. I'm at work. I've been here since 8:15 this morning. Ma'am, please just come to the station. We've issued an alert for your safety and Mason's welfare. We need to resolve this immediately. An alert? They'd issued an alert. My face was probably on every phone in the city right now, labeled as a mother who'd abandoned her child. Dr. Brennan appeared in the doorway, his face grave. Francine, take the rest of the day. Go handle this. I grabbed my purse, my keys, trying to think through the panic. Gina stopped me at the door. Hey, breathe. Whatever this is, we know you. We'll verify you've been here all morning if needed. The drive to the police station was a blur. Every red light felt like an eternity. My phone kept buzzing with texts, some from numbers I didn't recognize. I glanced at one at a stoplight and my stomach dropped. Someone had shared my Facebook profile in a community group with the caption, "This is the mother who abandoned her kid. Share so she can't run." The police station lobby was chaos. Roderick was there, red-faced and pacing, gesturing wildly to 2 officers. When he saw me, he pointed like I was a criminal he'd been hunting. There, finally. Do you have any idea what you've put us through? Darlene had to cancel 3 showings. Mason won't stop crying, all because you decided you needed a day off. Where is my son? I kept my voice level, though everything in me wanted to scream. He's safe, Officer Wilmot said, stepping between us. He's with your sister-in-law at your brother's house. I need to see him. Right now. First, we need to take your statement, the officer said. Mr. Porter has made serious allegations. He says you've been increasingly erratic, that you often leave the child for extended periods, that today was the last straw. That's insane. I drop Mason off every morning at 7:30 and pick him up at 4. Every single day. Check with my job. Check my phone. I have nothing to hide. Roderick stepped closer. She's lying. She does this all the time. Dumps him and disappears. I'm tired of enabling her neglect. Someone needs to check if that boy is even safe with her. Officer Wilmot separated us immediately, leading me to a small interview room while another officer took Roderick somewhere else. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as I spread everything out on the metal table. My phone, my work schedule, my text messages with both Roderick and Darlene going back months. My hands moved with desperate efficiency, building my defense against an accusation I still couldn't fully comprehend. Look, I told Officer Wilmot, scrolling through my messages. Every single text about pickup times. Always 4 p.m., never 9. There's nothing here about any appointment today. The officer studied my phone, his expression neutral. Your brother showed us a text on his phone. Said 9 a.m. pickup for a dentist appointment. That's impossible. Mason doesn't even have a dentist appointment. His last cleaning was 2 months ago, and the next one isn't until January. I can call Dr. Brennan's office right now and verify that. Ma'am, what concerns me more is that your brother waited until almost noon to call us if the pickup was supposedly at 9. That detail hit me like cold water. You're right. If he really thought I'd abandoned Mason at 9, why wait 3 hours to call for help? Officer Wilmot made a note. We're going to need to verify your whereabouts this morning. Call my office. I clocked in at 8:13 a.m. My first patient was at 8:30, Mrs. Chen and her family. I've been in back-to-back appointments all morning. Gina at the front desk can confirm everything. While he made the calls, I sat there trying to piece together what was happening. Roderick had always been controlling, but this was beyond anything I could have imagined. Then another thought struck me, sharp and terrible. Officer, where exactly is Mason right now? You said he's safe, but where is he specifically? Your sister-in-law confirmed he's at the house. She returned from her showings when your brother called her about the situation. But where in the house? Is someone actually with him? Can someone physically verify they've seen him? The officer looked up from his notepad. Are you suggesting something? I'm suggesting that my brother is lying about something, and I need to know my son is actually okay, not just at the house, but genuinely safe and accounted for. Officer Wilmot stood. We're going to take you to your brother's residence now. Officer Chen will escort you. The drive felt like hours, but was only 12 minutes. Every stop sign was agony. My phone buzzed constantly with notifications I couldn't bring myself to read. The Amber Alert had spread like wildfire. My face, Mason's picture, our names branded across the digital world as abandoned child and neglectful mother. When we pulled up to Roderick's house, Darlene's white Lexus sat in the driveway. She stood on the porch, arms crossed, wearing her professional real estate blazer and the expression of cold fury I'd never seen before. This has been quite the production, Francine, she said as I got out of the police car. Where is Mason? I need to see him right now. He's inside, watching cartoons with Colby. I pushed past her, Officer Wilmot following close behind. The living room TV was playing some animated show, but only Colby sat on the couch. No Mason. Where is he? My voice cracked. He was just here, Darlene said, but uncertainty crept into her tone. Colby, where's Mason? Colby looked up, his 8-year-old face confused. In the timeout place? What timeout place? I demanded. Roderick appeared from the kitchen, still in his performance of righteous anger. He's fine. He's in his room. Needed some quiet time after all his crying. Show me, right now. You don't get to make demands after what you pulled today. Officer Wilmot stepped forward. Mr. Porter, show us where the child is, immediately. Roderick's jaw clenched, but he led us down the hallway to Colby's room. He opened the door with a flourish. The room was empty, just Colby's soccer trophies and video game posters. He must have gone to the bathroom, Roderick said, but sweat had appeared on his forehead. Mason, I called out, moving through the house. Mason, baby, it's Mommy. No answer. Mason! My voice echoed through the house. That's when Colby appeared in the hallway again, tugging on Officer Wilmot's sleeve. He's not in the house, the boy whispered. Dad put him in the special timeout place in the backyard, but I'm not supposed to tell. The blood drained from Roderick's face. Colby, stop making things up. But I was already running for the back door, Officer Wilmot right behind me. The backyard stretched out before us, Roderick's landscaping equipment scattered around. And there, at the far end, stood his work shed. I ran toward the shed, my feet slipping on the wet grass. Officer Wilmot shouted something behind me, but all I could hear was the pounding of my own heartbeat. The shed door had a padlock on the outside, hanging open but clearly used recently. I yanked the door so hard it slammed against the exterior wall. Mason! Mason! There he was. My 5-year-old son sat huddled on a beanbag chair in the corner, his dinosaur backpack clutched to his chest, his face streaked with dried tears. A tablet playing cartoons sat propped against the wall, volume muted. Empty juice boxes littered the floor around him. Mommy? His voice was so small, so broken, that something inside me shattered. I dropped to my knees and pulled him into my arms. He was shaking, his little body cold despite the space heater running in the corner. "I'm here, baby. Mommy's here. You're safe now. Uncle Rod said you forgot me. He said you didn't want to come back." "Never. I would never forget you. Not ever." Officer Wilmot entered the shed, his expression darkening as he took in the scene. The padlock, the isolated location, the makeshift containment area disguised as a playroom. He spoke into his radio, calling for backup. Roderick appeared in the doorway, Darlene and Colby behind him. "This is being blown out of proportion. It's a finished space. There's heat, entertainment, snacks. It's basically a playroom." "With a lock on the outside," Officer Wilmot said quietly. "How long was the child in here?" "Just since this morning. It was supposed to teach Francine a lesson about responsibility." "Since this morning?" Darlene's voice rose. "You told me he was in Colby's room. You said Francine didn't show up. I've been here for an hour and you never said he was in the shed." "You were upset about your showings. I didn't want to complicate things." "Complicate things?" Darlene stared at him like she was seeing a stranger. "You locked a 5-year-old in a shed and called the police on his mother?" Colby started crying. "Dad said it was a game. He said we were teaching Aunt Francie not to take advantage of us anymore. He told me Mason was having fun in the fort, but Mason was crying so loud and Dad turned up the TV so we couldn't hear him." The weight of it all crashed down. This hadn't been a misunderstanding or a miscommunication. This had been planned, calculated. Roderick had deliberately locked my son in a shed, called the police, created false evidence, all to prove some sick point about my parenting. "You traumatized my child," I said, standing up with Mason still clinging to me. "You locked him in a shed and told him I abandoned him. He's fine. Look at him. He's not hurt." "Not hurt?" I could barely contain my rage. "Do you have any idea what psychological damage you've done? He thought I left him. He thought his mother forgot about him." Officer Wilmot stepped closer to Roderick. "Mr. Porter, I'm placing you under arrest for false reporting and child endangerment." "This is ridiculous. I'm the one who called you. She's the neglectful parent. She dumps him here every day while she works, expects free babysitting, never pays us anything. Someone needed to show her she can't just use family like this." "So you imprisoned a 5-year-old? Officer Wilmot pulled out handcuffs. "Turn around, sir." "Dad?" Colby's voice was small, confused. "Are you going to jail?" Darlene pulled Colby against her, covering his eyes as the officer cuffed Roderick. "Don't look, baby." "This is insane," Roderick shouted as they led him away. "I was protecting the kid, teaching his worthless mother a lesson. She has no husband, no stability, just works her little job and pretends that's enough. The boy needs discipline, structure, not some single mother who coddles him with dinosaur nonsense." His words echoed across the yard as they put him in the police car. Neighbors had gathered along the fence line, phones out, recording everything. The same community that had shared my face as a negligent mother an hour ago was now witnessing the truth. Mason hadn't let go of me once. I carried him into the house, Officer Wilmot following to take our statements. Darlene sat at her kitchen table, mascara running down her cheeks. "Francine, I swear I didn't know. When he called me, he said you hadn't shown up. He said Mason was watching TV in Colby's room. I never imagined he would do something like this." "How long?" I asked quietly. "How long was my baby in that shed?" Colby answered in a whisper. "Since after breakfast. Dad said Mason needed a timeout for crying about you, but then he started making all these phone calls and told me to stay quiet or I'd be in trouble too." 4 hours. My son had been locked in a shed for 4 hours while Roderick performed his elaborate charade of the concerned uncle. 3 weeks later, I sat in my therapist's office while Mason played with his dinosaurs on the carpet. Dr. Martinez had been recommended by the Police Victim Services Coordinator, specializing in childhood trauma. Mason had been having nightmares, waking up screaming that he was locked in the dark, even though the shed had been lit. Trust, once broken at such a young age, doesn't heal quickly. "How are the legal proceedings going?" Dr. Martinez asked. Roderick pled down to a misdemeanor, false reporting and reckless endangerment. He got probation, mandatory parenting classes, and a restraining order. He can't come near Mason or me for 2 years. "And how do you feel about that?" I watched Mason carefully arrange his dinosaurs in a protective circle. Angry, he traumatized my child and got a slap on the wrist, but also relieved it's over. The trial would have been harder on Mason. The Amber Alert had been canceled within hours, but the internet never forgets. Screenshots circulated for days. Local mother abandons child followed immediately by plot twist, uncle locked kid in shed. My coworkers had been supportive, but I still felt the weight of those initial judgments from strangers who'd been so quick to label me an unfit mother. Darlene filed for divorce the day after Roderick's arrest. She'd brought Colby over last week, the first time since everything happened. The boys had played together while she and I sat on my small balcony, drinking coffee in silence before she finally spoke. I keep thinking about all the signs I missed. The way he'd criticize your parenting, his obsession with Mason being too soft, the comments about single mothers. I made excuses for all of it. It wasn't your fault, Darlene. I was complicit through silence, though. When he'd say those things about you and Mason, I should have shut it down. Instead, I just tried to keep the peace. She was right, but I didn't have the energy for that conversation. My focus was on Mason, on helping him feel safe again. The real conversation happened 2 days ago. Darlene had called, asking if she could bring something over. She arrived with a box of Mason's things from their house and an envelope. "What's this?" I asked. "Every penny we saved on childcare for the last 2 years. Roderick was right about one thing. We never paid you for watching Colby all those mornings before school when I had early showings. It was always family helping family, but it was never equal, was it?" I stared at the check. "Darlene, I can't take this." "Yes, you can. Use it for Mason's therapy or college fund, or just take him to see real dinosaur bones at that museum he loves. Just take it." Mason had made progress. His teacher reported he was engaging with classmates again, sharing his dinosaur knowledge with his usual enthusiasm. Last week, he'd given a presentation about the Mesozoic era that had the whole kindergarten class captivated. "Ms. Porter," his teacher had written in an email, "Mason's passion for learning is remarkable. He's teaching the other children that it's okay to love something deeply, to be an expert in what brings you joy. That's a gift." I'd printed that email and kept it in my wallet. On the dark days, when the trauma felt too heavy, I'd read it and remember that my son was more than what happened to him. The shed still stood in what was now Darlene's backyard. She'd texted me last week, "Having it torn down tomorrow. Colby wants to plant a garden there instead, something living instead of something that held fear." I thought about that a lot. Something living instead of something that held fear. That's what we were trying to build too, Mason and I. New routines that felt safe, new trust in a world that had briefly turned upside down. "Mommy," Mason said from the carpet, holding up a brachiosaurus, "did you know their necks were so long they could eat from trees as tall as buildings?" "I didn't know that, baby." "Tell me more." And he did, his voice growing stronger with each fact, each detail about these creatures that lived millions of years ago, but somehow made my son feel powerful in the present. He was healing. We both were. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you become the danger you need protection from, but we survived it. We're still here, still together, still learning about dinosaurs and building our own kind of family. The kind where love doesn't come with conditions, where children are celebrated for who they are, not molded into someone else's vision of normal. That's our victory. Not Roderick's arrest or the divorce or the apologies. Our victory is Mason's voice growing confident again, sharing what he loves without fear. That's worth everything. If you found value in our story, please take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear that they're not alone. Your support helps these important conversations reach those who need them most. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more real stories from real survivors. Thank you for listening, and remember, trust your instincts when something feels wrong. They're usually right.